Welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be previewing the first of Saturday's massive lineup of international test matches between New Zealand and England. Both teams have named some really strong teams and I'm really looking forward to this game. If you look at how England started playing towards the end of the Six Nations, playing some really fast attacking rugby, combine that with the All Blacks DNA of quick ball counter-attacking rugby, hopefully both the teams will play into each other's hands and we'll have a really good test match to watch. The first thing I would just note is the timing of this test match. If you look at England, they've played their Six Nations and have had a little bit more time together, albeit have had the Premiership in between the previous test match and this one. However, they have still had a little bit more time together of late. The All Blacks, having just finished their Super Rugby season, maybe their legs will be a little bit more tired, or maybe they'll be a little bit more fresh as a group of players because they haven't had a massively long season, with the Premiership being quite considerably longer than Super Rugby. So a few different factors playing in there towards sort of player welfare and where the players will be mentally coming into this test match, but hopefully it will be a good watch. I'm just going to run through the lineups. So if you look at the All Blacks front row, De Groot, Taylor and Lomax, no massive surprises in there, but really solid front row. It'll be interesting to see how Taylor fares up against Jamie George. Taylor's got a really nice running game and has been playing some reasonable stuff in a struggling Crusaders team. And I think he's developing some really good leadership qualities as well from playing at the Crusaders, and hopefully he can assist his fellow Crusader Scott Barrett with his captaincy. The English front row is somewhat of a transitional front row. You've got Joe Marler, Jamie George and Will Stewart. Joe Marler coming towards the end of his international days with a young Finn Baxter on the bench. It'll be very interesting to see how Steve Borthwick bloods the young talent coming through in England and actually sort of balances it with keeping some established internationals into the starting 15. The two second row partnerships are really interesting actually. You've got Scott Barrett and Tuipulotu. Tuipulotu for the Blues has been absolutely incredible this season. Probably the form second rower in the Southern Hemisphere at the moment. So some really good stuff coming from him. And he's against Itoje and Martin. Martin is really the future of that English front row. A really solid player. A typical English second row. Really big, hits really hard. Not the most sort of athletic in terms of, you won't see him on the edge, you know, making a 50-metre break, but he gets through so many hard yards and he'll be imperative for England's success. Moving into the back row, you've got Finau, Papali'i and Sarvea for the All Blacks. Really nice balanced back row with the carrying of Finau. Well, to be fair, they can all carry pretty well. But you look at Sarvea and Papali'i with some really specialist abilities over the ball. Finau's a brilliant runner with the ball and he can do a bit of everything really. So a bit more power coming from the likes of Papali'i and Finau, which will really help the All Blacks get on the front foot, which allows them to play that attacking brand of rugby. It's almost impossible to play and give players like Mackenzie time on the ball if you're not going forward. So the ability for that back three in the forwards to get over the gain line will be key to the All Blacks' success. England, I don't think they've played this back row combination too much. It's Cunningham South, Underhill and Ben-El. A bit of a different sort of dynamic to that of the All Blacks back row. You've got Underhill, who's really just a specialist tackler. He's decent over the ball as well and doesn't have too much going forward, but what he does do is he tackles, and he tackles unbelievably well. I'm going to put my head above the parapet and say he is one of, if not the best technical tackler in the world of rugby. His chopping tackles, really low height, is really brilliant to watch. And you've got Ben-El with his pace and ball carrying abilities, and they've gone with Cunningham South, the younger, more youthful of that back row, to add an extra bit of carrying to combat the power in the All Blacks back row. Moving into the backs, we've got some really nice partnerships here as well. TJ Perenara coming in the number 9 jersey. His fellow Hurricanes halfback Cam Roigard would probably be in starting if he was fit, but unfortunately he did get injured in the Super Rugby season for the Canes. So Perenara steps up, a really good replacement. He's really upped his rugby since rejoining the Hurricanes and is playing some really good stuff. You've got Mackenzie as well at 10. The Chiefs fly half has been playing really well all season. The games in which the Chiefs managed to upset the Hurricanes in the semi-final, he was imperative to that success and has been playing some quality stuff. Amazing counter-attacker, and he can really find space unbelievably well. For England, a really attacking partnership as well, which should lend it to be a really good watch and a really sort of high-scoring game if the forwards allow it to be. You've got Mitchell and Smith, two players that can really spot a gap and have got a good bit of pace to match their vision as well. That should be interesting. Moving into the Centres, you've got Jordy Barrett and Rico Ioane, one of the best centre partnerships in the world of rugby. You've got the vision, the kicking skills and the handling abilities of Barrett, who can also carry reasonably well, as we've seen for the Hurricanes this season, partnered with the slightly more one-dimensional Rico Ioane. When I say one-dimensional, I don't mean that as too much of a degrading comment, more of a he does what he does really, really well. There's not many 13s that can handle the ball in terms of footwork, and when they've got the ball, no one really looks quite as dangerous as Rico Ioane, so it'll be interesting to see how he gets on in the 13 jersey. England, on the other hand, have Lawrence and Slade, so for the All Blacks, you've got Barrett is the more distributing player at 12 and the power coming from Ioane at 13. England, that's changed around slightly. You've got Slade at 13 with distribution, with Lawrence at 12. To be honest, I don't think these numbers matter too much. Often off set pieces, you're all sort of mixed and running different lines anyway, so the number on the back of your shirt doesn't matter too much. But it'll be interesting to see how they go against each other. Far more experienced combination is Barrett and Ioane, but it will be interesting to see how they fare. The back three's really exciting talent on show here. Talea, Reese and Perofeta for the All Blacks. Talea and Reese, unbelievably fast. Really, what's the word to describe it? I'm almost going to call them greasy players. Like, you can't tackle them and keep them down. They always find a way just to pull a leg free or just to be able to find gaps in contact where it was never a gap. So it'll be interesting to see how they go. Perofeta at 15 of the Blues, a really, really good player. Very underrated, I feel. He's got some good distribution skills, good kicking skills. I do remember him for the Blues having a bit of a stinker off the kicking tee, so I'm pretty sure Damien McKenzie will take those responsibilities, but be interesting to see how he slots into that fullback jersey and if he can keep it from Beauden Barrett, who is returning to Super Rugby. So for England, back three, Tommy Freeman, Fawa Boso and Furbank. As far as English back threes go, this is incredibly exciting. You've got the pace and the power of Freeman, combining that with the more agile Fawa Boso. I'd kind of liken Fawa Boso to a slightly less experienced Sevu Reece in terms of the way they play. Both really low centre of gravity, can find gaps where there weren't originally gaps. So it'll be interesting to see how they go against each other. Sort of the master against the apprentice is sort of the slogan you could probably run with. And then Furbank at 15, similar to Perofeta, can do a lot of distribution as well, but they can both hit a gap if they see one. So really good lineups, and it should, weather permitting and sort of team attitude permitting, it could be a really, really good example of attacking rugby, and we could see a few points and a few tries scored, which is ultimately what we want to see in the end. So I think a lot of the way this game goes depends on England's approach. We know what to expect from the All Blacks. Very physical. They want to score points. They want to entertain. Do England go to their, what I'm going to call, semi-final of the Rugby World Cup mode, where they box kick the life out of the ball, go set piece to set piece, try and play it really restricted, which will mean the All Blacks don't have a lot to counter attack off of, limit the All Blacks ball? Or do they try and take a few risks? Do they try and play some expansive rugby, try and score a few points of their own, which with some of that backline talent they're more than capable of doing? But at the same time, if their handling is the same as it was against Scotland in the Six Nations, I mean, the All Blacks will just run riot. You can't afford to be dropping balls in contact and allowing the likes of Barrett, Ioane, Talea, McKenzie to counter attack into space, because before you know it, you'll be under your own stick. So I think that'll be a really interesting sort of facet of the game. How do England approach it, and then how do the All Blacks respond to that? I think with the success of the Blues in Super Rugby this season, who play a really abrasive style of rugby, they can really just go through a team as opposed to around, which has sometimes been a criticism of Super Rugby sides trying to play expansive rugby. But the Blues have really added some grit to their game, the ability to just do one-off runners or just a tip pass in the forwards and really break down through the centre of a team. Tuipulotu is a prime example of that. The Blues, that mindset of going through you as opposed to around you. So that'll be interesting as well. As always, it does come down to the set piece. England are renowned for having a strong set piece, especially at scrum and line out. So that'll be interesting to see how they can fare against New Zealand. Can they get the upper hand there? If you look at some of the power in that All Blacks starting 1 to 8, you probably wouldn't expect an English dominant scrum, but if both teams can just hold out their scrum and allow a decent attacking platform, we should see some exciting rugby. So Please do let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. The previous game was 25-all at Twickenham. Will Stewart, who's actually starting at tight head, a Will Stewart brace in the last 10 minutes. Yes, a tight head prop brace in the last 10 minutes levelled the score, and some good kicking from Marcus Smith that day as well to add the extras, and it finished the draw. England received a fair amount of criticism for kicking the ball out and accepting the draw rather than going for the win. But that was all under Eddie Jones. We're under a new leadership now of Steve Borthwick, new style of play, and I'm hoping that England continue off the Six Nations with that really exciting attack and try and, even if they lose, just get some points on the board and look to grow and progress their game. The All Blacks, on the other hand, nothing apart from a solid win will be accepted by their fans. You don't go to New Zealand and win very often, so there's high expectations from the All Blacks. They've brought back Sarvea, some big star names in there as well. The likes of Bowden Barrett is coming onto the bench, so they are fully loaded. And the bookies have All Blacks by 12. You can see that. I think that's more than it's more than possible that happens. You sort of liken it to the first All Blacks versus Ireland Test match. Ireland were really competitive up until sort of 50 minutes, if you like, and the All Blacks just a couple intercepts, a couple breakaway tries, and they're sort of out of touch and the game's done. So unbelievably lethal team in black there, and England will have to be on their game. But please do let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Who do you think is going to win, and by what score margin? And what sort of style of game do you think we'll see? Will it be a test match, sort of gritty, take the 3 points, or do you think we're going to see some attacking and some fluid rugby? Hopefully we'll get the latter, but I'll catch up with you after the game, and as always, thank you very much for watching.